Sometimes you may have the feeling that you're losing grip in your car, or you're just struggling overall and you don't know what you need to change on your car setup to get rid of this behavior. I think a lot of times problems with your car setup or trouble with your driving style can be solved with this model that I'm explaining, because this is basically what is happening behind the scenes. Whenever I build a car setup, I use this model to refer back to what needs to change. Now, I built multiple car setups. I'm also built some products. I think people are really happy. Link down below. This is basically the system that I'm using, that I'm referring back to whenever I'm driving the car or I feel that it's like an issue. I always use this model to determine what needs to change about the car setup, because if we explain setups like, oh, we have wheel rates, it creates understeer, oversteer, that's not really helping you, I believe. And this model is completely new and different, and this you can apply to your driving style and setups combined, because they equally work together. And yeah, let's go. Instead of talking about over and understeer and all those things, I will try to decrease those words, because we need to talk about weight on a different wheel, on a different situation on the car and how it's behaving. You would imagine if you put weight on a certain wheel of your car, when you press it down into the tarmac, it will probably not slide as easily when it doesn't have that much weight on its tires. And this is going to be a recurring theme all the way through this model, because we are going to talk about how weight on different wheels is going to affect your car behavior in a million ways. But if we can focus on small things, we can actually understand it. And when you're driving, you know how this weight is going to be handled in your car setup. And that will also give you an understanding how to drive your setup better. Yeah. So let's get into the next thing. We're going to talk about ride heights, wing and bump stop ranges all together and how they affect each other. So instead of like not knowing where the grip is, we are going to change up the car setup in a way that we know how much pressure we have on a certain wheels in different situations. The most difficult thing in car setup building is going to be your ride height and wing settings together. They always work together, and they're going to be different for all these different cars. So as a rule of thumb, having more equal ride heights will allow you to, or will force you to actually have a low rear wing setting for its overall weight balance. So here you can see the weight of the car, and just imagine that this would be the middle point of your weight of the car, and the front and the rear ride height are basically the same in this awesome looking Lexus. Yeah. But when we are going to push up the back of the car, we're going to increase rake. It is like the difference between front and rear ride height. Now, for a Lexus or a front engine car, this could be values that are could be useful for you if you want more weight on your front tires. Yeah. So in this model, we actually also want to run a lot of wing. And you can see how this is going to take shape, because now when we're like the rear wing will have weight on the back of the car as well. It's just pushing the back down, increasing extra weight on the overall car setup. So you have more weight to work with in the grip section and in corners. You actually have more weight on your car because of the airflow. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff happening with airflow. I'm not going to get into that because it makes it completely like unimaginably difficult. And I really want to stress this way so everybody can understand. What's going to happen if we go back to the other model? If we have equal ride heights, we're going to have a lot of more top speed. We're going to have a lot less weight to work with. So this is like a real difficult balance to figure out how much weight you need to use in your complete lap to be fastest overall. That's why I always say build a setup you can control, go into races, compare yourself to the competition, and if everybody is like slower on the straight, then you can work with more rake and more rear wing to get more weight in your car in the corners, so therefore have more grip in the corners, so being faster in the corners. So this is only ride height and wing settings. So figure out high wing settings, gonna be like more ride height, because if we take the wing off now and we have massive ride height on the back, we actually have no pressure on the back, and that will actually make our car super oversteery everywhere. Yeah, as in if we have a lot of like a flat car and we're using max wing, we have massive understeer everywhere. So there is a balance, and rookie people or super advanced will be a massive difference in this area. That's why if you're super rookie and you really need a safe car setup that you can control, you're probably gonna have less ride height on the back, and you're probably gonna have higher wing setting, will make it a very safe ride. Okay. Acceleration and top speed using bump stop ranges. The weight of the car will move backwards every time we go on throttle and every time we get increasing the top speed. So let's say we go like, let's say we have like an acceleration situation and we're pushing the throttle, the weight is gonna move backwards. But the bump stop range on the back will determine how much of this weight is actually going down, and the bump stop range is going to determine how much weight we're gonna have on the rear wheels. Yeah, so to have less ranges on the back will allow the weight to travel backwards less, which means that the rear of the car will have less grip on acceleration. Then when we have massive ranges, the weight is allowed to go way more to the back, and therefore allowing a lot more weight on the rear tires, therefore increasing a lot of grip on the rear end. But there is like this, you know, this momentum front, then we also lose weight on the front of the car. Now, imagine if you're driving 150 and you have the rear wing, it's maybe applying like 100 kilos of weight on the back of the car. Yeah, this is gonna be exaggerated. If you will drive through 100, this weight on the rear wing will increase and increase and increase. So as we go faster and faster and faster, we get more into understeering situations. This can be offsetted with bump stop range. So let's say I would want to drive a Lexus and I want to have like a high level setup and I would have like a lot of rake. I would only have a little bit of bump stop range to keep the back of the car up, allowing not this weight to move so forward backwards. I want to keep that weight more in front of the car. Yeah, so ride height and low bump stop ranges will make sure this weight isn't allowed to travel to the back of the wheels, creating more grip. More weight allows more weight on the front tires when we accelerate. Same goes for braking. When we're hitting brakes and we have bump stop ranges, the weight of the front will increase because the weight will travel forward. And again, we have this lever pushing down weight on these front tires. When we have like Monza turn 1 and we have quite a lot of ranges, then this will allow this front grip to bite. Then again, if we have wing settings, this pressure on the back will decrease as we're braking, as the speed is dropping down. So a lot of times when, let's say, a McLaren with a lot of ride height on the back will oversteer. We'll have oversteer entry because we're losing pressure on the back when we're like decelerating and get into lower speeds. This weight completely disappears. Yeah, so bump stop range is going to be vital, especially for the braking, because if we have low ranges, this weight will not be allowed to go so much forward, but will stay more in the middle. And therefore, we don't have the rear end sliding so much. a little bit of a side note on brake bias. If we have massive ranges on the front, the back end, this rear wheel will not have the weight. And then if we push the brake bias backwards, then this wheel is going to lock up very easily. Yeah, so there's a relation between bump stop ranges and brake bias for its brake performance and rotation. Yeah, so massive ranges. Okay, let me explain further. This is going to explain braking with high bump stop ranges. So we have a lot of travel here. This weight is allowed to go way forward. But if we have low bump stop ranges, this weight is not allowed to go forward that much. Yeah, this is just for braking. There's also the same story for acceleration. Now, for turning, this is also a case. If we have higher bump stop ranges, the weight is also going to be allowed way more to the right, increasing more pressure on the wheels on the right. And if we just braking and steering into the corner, also this weight is going to be promoted here in this section. The biggest problem with massive ranges is going to be, it's going to be more difficult to drive. Your car will be less responsive, and you have the pain of the car bottoming out. So there is a limit on how big your bump stop ranges can be. But if you're using very low values at the moment, increase them a bit and see if you can gain some more traction in these corners using the same settings. Now, you can see this box and these arrows. This weight will always be traveling in different directions. This weight will be there when we're braking. When we're like coasting, it will probably be here somewhere. Applying a little bit of throttle, it will be here. And then applying max throttle, it will be there. This is always moving. But the ride height is going to determine where this box from baseline will be. This will be a situation where we have more ride height on the back. And now this box will be more in front. This way, we can have like more weight on the front tires combined with wing settings, increasing the weight on all these different tires. Look from the top view. Now, there is also something to say about the stuff that I'm explaining here, but it's more focused on front engine cars. But if you have like a rear engine or mid-engine car, rear ride height is gonna have way more influence on your entry behavior and also your exit behavior. And that's the next model I want to get into. But before that, we're gonna have a look at massive ranges everywhere. This weight will be allowed to travel everywhere. Now, a more meta, a more professional or like more high level setup will have more ranges. So that's something to take note of. What happens when we have massive range on the front or on the back? Over here, we have low front bump stop ranges, which means this would be really applicable for some cars when we have too much rotation in fast corners, but we have like too much rotation on entry. Yeah, so we have low ranges on the front, making the weight stay more in the front of the car, but then when we are on throttle and we're hitting high speeds and fast corners, the weight is allowed to go backwards very easily. Yeah, this can really help us to find some balance in a car setup. So let's say a Ferrari or a McLaren and some other cars will have a great time having more rear ranges. I'm also using the Lamborghini at the moment. It also really drives with more ranges on the back. For front engine cars, this would more be the model. The weight will not be allowed to move to the backwards that easily with low rear ranges, low rear bump stop ranges, and on the front, having more ranges on the front will allow this weight to go way more to these front tires. Don't look at this text, it doesn't fit. I see this now. I'm not going to change it anymore. I already changed it a million times, so you understand it, yeah? So, high wheel rates. What do high wheel rates then have to do with this? This basically means that the weight will not go to the edges that easily. So high wheel rates can be really beneficial when we only have fast corners. So this weight will be more controlled in this box and will not find the edges that easily. making it also more forgiving. The only problem with this is that when the slow corners, we're going to suffer, because when we're driving slow, this weight is not going to find its bumps up ranges that easily, therefore not having that grip. So that's why we always want to run low wheel rates much as possible. Even though now in Assetto Corsa Competizione, for instance, it's not really hurting our responsiveness. It's not really hurting our responsiveness, because that's also an effect of low wheel rate. So this will make it more responsive, because the weight is actually not going to all these sides all the time. Now, what if we have a car that is like really oversteering on entry? A higher wheel rate on the front will make sure this weight will not travel that easily to the front, but there will be an opportunity to have these massive ranges. But then when we're on throttle or we're going fast corners, this weight is going to be allowed very easily on the back, therefore creating a lot of more grip on the back. This is how high wheel rates, and obviously the other way around this as well. You see this with a lot of setups on the Nordschleife in ACC, that we have this model the other way around, because we don't want all that grip on the back wheels all the time. Now, if you're liking this content and you made it this far, I really want to thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments as well how you if there's something wrong with this model, because it's a little bit of experimental phase. There's a lot of stuff behind it as well. We can really build it out and use tow values and anti-roll bar settings and all this stuff into this model. There's a lot of information that's still to unpack, so let me know in the comments what you think. And if you want to be updated on this stuff, follow on my Patreon. I will put updates there, or subscribe to my newsletter, because I also write in the newsletter this development of this model, because I think there's a lot to explore, and it can be really super beneficial to understand setups, but also change your driving style and apply setups to your particular driving style. So those links you will find below in the description.